Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Chat with Lindsay and Neely.
Hey y'all.
Do you have your
How's it
coffee?
going? Oh, I have coffee. It
Yay!
is it is black and it is decaf and it could spill if I go any further than this.
Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. Mine is nice and warm and it is cold up here today, so I
Is
am
it?
I am enjoying the warm cup in my hands at the moment.
So what is in your cup?
Surprise.
Let me
Half
guess.
cup with cream.
I was gonna say a full sugar pumpkin spice latte from Starbucks that you poured into a cup of your own.
Yeah. Well, that is what I do because and then I say it's something else because I wouldn't want you guys to think badly of me.
I've heard
All of
YouTubers do that.
I'm becoming a real influencer now.
You're hiding things behind the lens. You're
Yeah.
like, don't look at this dancing monkey back here. Your
Yes.
eyes deceive you.
Yes. Look at this perfection in front of you.
That's right. Behind here, there's a lot of imperfection.
Mhm.
Actually, behind you right now is my big giant like dresser mirror. And
Mm.
so I'm going to argue that it is technically imperfection because I can see my own reflection.
Lindsay, you are perfect
No,
just the way
we're
you
all
are.
flawed. Just the way you are. I hope we
Yeah.
don't get like,
I've seen a great reel or meme or whatever that said uh the influencer saying you're perfect, beautiful just the way you are, and it's like the influencer has lip filler and Botox and they spent an hour doing their hair and their makeup and they're telling everyone how beautiful they are just the way they are.
that's dumb. I get so excited because I've got like these fun little colors of gray. They
Ooh,
look barely anything here. And then whenever I'm like fixing my hair in the mornings, I'm like, oh, is there a stray hair? Is it coming in? And
yeah.
I'll talk with my friends and they're like, I spend more time at the salon with my hair nowadays now that I'm getting older. And I'm like, you know how much time I spend at that salon? Goose egg. It's a big old goose egg.
Same. Same. I don't know that I have gray hair yet. There have been a few times where I'm like, I think maybe there's one, but then I'm like, I don't know.
They're not ready.
So
They're not
far,
ready.
so far, I haven't gotten my wisdom yet. Still
Oh.
waiting.
Well, I have to have wisdom in the form of hairs because all my wisdom teeth are gone.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Well,
you
mine are
know.
gone too, so I don't have either.
Oh, well, you're just a baby. It's fine.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Good morning, Jennifer from San
Hello.
Diego. Good afternoon from Barbara. Rickwin is here. Hello. Hayden, good morning. Blaze, hello. Barbara has black coffee with keto brains. Excellent.
Good on ya.
Janice, good morning. Suzanne, good morning.
I
And
mean,
let's see. Sing
or
It
good
is here.
afternoon.
Or
Hi,
afternoon.
sing it.
Good morning from me because it's morning to me.
Happy
Uh,
morning to you.
Sing It says, we don't have many vices. Starbucks is a worthy one. Good morning, ladies. Hot water. Oh, hot water. I
I mean,
mean,
I do that too, honestly.
yeah.
It
Do what you got to do.
feels more specialer when it's hot water instead of just like plain old room temperature water.
Yeah.
You know
Lukewarm.
what? It is actually not cold here, which
Really?
I am surprised at. Yeah, I mean, presently it's like 66 degrees. So
Wow.
it's pretty warm.
Yeah.
Um,
It was cold this morning, but it says it's 56 degrees now. So
mm,
that's not too bad. And it's supposed to be like sunny. Like that's the thing is we're having like cold mornings and
sure.
then sun during the day, but then getting up to like mid 70s. So
Yeah.
it's actually kind of perfect. Couldn't ask for better.
That sounds delightful. Right
Yeah.
now we have been getting a lot of rain. Our grass all over the lawn has been bone dry. Feels like dried out hay. You step on it barefoot and you cry, that kind of
Mhm,
thing.
mhm,
Because shoes are overrated, let's be
mhm.
honest.
That's how the
Um,
kids feel.
but shoes, who needs shoes?
Yeah.
But it started raining from like all of the storm activity and now everything is back to bright green. And you're just thinking, like,
Wow.
really? We thought the mower was going to be all done for this year, but apparently we were wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Speaking of, changing things, like putting on shoes when you need them, Levi has decided that it's perma summer and he only wears, shorts, no shirt, just shorts outside. It's so cold outside and he's out there, no shirt, like a man.
Well, that's what real men do.
It's true. It really
You've
is true.
not been a real man yet, Mom, so you
Yeah.
don't understand.
Yeah. When he was probably 2, um, Jeff started talking to him about what big men do. Like big
Oh,
men
sure.
don't, they don't talk back to their mom. And
It's
big men
true.
big men clean their faces, and stuff like that. And
Big men use the toilet,
there was one time
unless you're
where
camping.
where I was getting Levi ready to go and I was like, "Levi, you need a jacket." And he said, "Big man don't get cold." Oh, it was so funny. And then immediately we walk outside and he's like, "Ooh."
You're like, huh, guess you aren't quite the big man you thought you were yet, son.
He's getting there though, because apparently he doesn't need a shirt in winter.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
you know,
Well,
it's time to
if he
become a big
thinks
man.
if he thinks this is winter, he's in
Right.
for a treat
That's
in
true.
about 2 months.
So it's still in our house, but big man don't get cold.
I love that. I love that.
Oh, let's see. Hayden says, made the usual breakfast, but with one less customer. So I'm nearly finished with double helping of cheesy scrambled eggs with ham. Sounds pretty good,
That
but
does sound
loading is
delightful.
not fantastic. So try
No,
not to do that.
for sure. For breakfast, since we're on the breakfast subject for a moment, I went to go pull out the bacon, the pre-baked, or like we'd cooked up a whole bunch of bacon and stuck it in the fridge to pull from as needed.
Mhm.
So I go to pull the bacon and there is a piece left, a
Oh.
single solitary sad little piece of bacon. So I go and as soon as I peel open the bag, all of a sudden Lauren appears in front of me saying, "We can share?" Right. Mama hasn't had food yet, and here you are pilfering it, you little scavenger. And then I
Stinkers.
promptly tore it in half and handed it to her so she wouldn't chirp at me more.
No, it's
But
because
also, like,
you're mother.
well, and it's one of those things where it's like, I think I've got plenty of stored energy at the moment. She does not. All she
True.
is just like skin, bones, and like no body fat.
Yeah, they burn through food so fast. Levi
They
eats so much,
do.
and he doesn't have an ounce of fat on his body.
Yeah. Oh,
None.
yeah. And
You
it's
can
not like
see
they're out
all
there
of his muscles.
And it's not like they're out there crossfitting it up or anything. They're just
I mean, they kind of are.
existing. I mean, that's okay. Okay, they're plyometricing. Okay,
They're definitely plyometric
they're
all day.
parkouring left, right, and center.
Yes, parkour.
That's what they're doing.
Yes,
Parkour.
they live the parkour life. Yeah.
Ah.
Patty says hello from Oregon.
Hi,
Hello from Oregon as
Patty.
well. Let's see. Hayden says it's still about 108 or thereabouts all week. That is
It's
quite
a
warm.
little toasty. A little toasty.
Quite warm. Sing it says 48 this morning. Whew. Yeah, and a high of 72. That's similar to what we've got going on here, which is kind of nice. There are some nice things about it. Let's see. Oh,
Oh,
Hayden says needs to cool down so she can order some more Chalk Zero. Yes.
that is definitely a hindrance for some different companies'
Yes.
products, isn't it?
Yes. Those darn companies that use real food.
Oh man, like Marigold, like those bars. I am so glad that they pack those with ice packs
Yeah.
because seriously, like, you think about it, you're like, oh, I'm getting fat bombs. Fantastic. Love those. I love that they're individually wrapped. And then I'm like, if it gets too hot,
Yeah.
those are going to be a little bit different. the,
Yes, it's
the
true.
texture is going to be a little off. So hopefully I'm never too far away whenever they deliver the marigold foods.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with Mario, like, over the summer.
No,
They've always come pretty, I mean, just like they're supposed to. The one
yeah.
that I really do have problems with is Perfect Keto. I just don't
Oh,
order
yeah.
like any the keto collagen bars or the Nola
The
bar.
Nola bars.
It's like I've gotten them where the Nola bars are like sunk down to the bottom of the package and they're like a chunk of
Yeah.
bar this big because they
Yep.
melted and fell down to the bottom. I mean, they still taste good, but it's just not quite the effect you're going for.
Yeah. And then the experience is over so much faster than you anticipated
Yeah, it's like 2
because
bites.
it's like so much denser and just compacted. You're like, well, I guess that's that.
Yeah, and then with the chocolate chip collagen protein bars, the chocolate chips melt, and so there's like holes in the bar,
Holes. Here's a
and then
pocket
it's
of
all
air
like,
that has an essence of chocolate.
and then there's like coconut oil chocolate all around the packaging. It's a
I
very
those
disappointing experience.
but those collagen, those keto collagen bars, I love those things.
They're so good.
I don't have them
Peanut butter chocolate chip.
frequently. Yeah, I don't have them frequently, but man, whenever I've got those in the basement so that they're not like gobbled up instantly, like
Mhm.
it's so much fun. So good.
I haven't ordered the peanut butter chocolate chip ones for a while because I was starting to have issue with them. Where they were consuming more of my thoughts than was appropriate.
Oh, wow.
So
So
I was like, we need to cut off our relationship here. This is not okay.
that is not okay. So let's kind of like maybe talk about that for a minute.
Okay, all
How do
right.
you know when a food is good for you or not?
Ooh.
I mean, it's one of those things where we think we are okay with things. We think that we're okay to have, the keto chow fudge just
Mm.
like hanging out all the time in the fridge or having fat bombs constantly accessible or I made some keto friendly brownies that I just kind of like made up out of nothing
Yeah.
and it was ridiculously good stuff and the girls were like, what is this magic? Like, I know you said this is keto, but also like, why does it taste so good? So it's one of those deals where it's like some foods are great. I mean, like they taste great, but then where's that line drawn? What do
Yeah.
you use as a litmus test to decide if something is right or not right for you specifically?
Well, honestly, I just like to find the most popular guru on YouTube and have them tell me what I can eat and what I can't eat. That is the most foolproof way to do it.
That is so smart because we know everybody else is smarter than us, right? And
Yeah.
so
And if
clearly
they have the most views, it means they
it
know their
must be true.
yes.
It,
Yes. It's science.
and we should never ever underestimate the truth in that knowledge, which can obviously never change.
Yeah.
And then also we can recognize truth could be subjective. I mean,
Speaking of truth be subjective, we'll get back to the original topic in a second. But yesterday, I was like, I told Jeff, I was like, I'm gonna go, do my run on the treadmill, and he was like, run, and I said,
he's like, words mean something, Neely.
I identify it as a run, and I don't appreciate you trying to shove your truth on my run.
I know my
says it's a
truth.
run.
Truth.
Okay, so anyways, if anyone didn't know, I was being facetious about, just finding the right guru to subscribe to, do everything they say and worship at their feet, and offer offerings and prayers and sacrifices to said guru.
Take another sacrifice. Oh yes, thank you. I enjoyed that sacrifice very much. Have another
Oh,
sacrifice, please. Oh, please have another sacrifice. If you don't know what we're
saying now.
If you don't know what that is a reference to, it is Madagascar 2, the children's movie, where Prince or King Julian is eating a sacrifice, and then he himself is offering himself another sacrifice, and then they get into a quarrel.
Yeah.
One must war with oneself.
Type thing.
I mean, and honestly, like that particular little scene in that movie is like so ideal. Like, I enjoyed this so very much, and I know that I don't need more. I don't need another Quest cookie, or I don't need another perfect keto bar. Oh, but take another one, please. It's like, I didn't want one, but I want one. But you must, I insist. Go,
Mm,
take it. And it's like,
mm.
man, that is a challenge in the heart. But keep going. You were doing great. I'm so
Okay, okay,
sorry.
okay. So
Take a
I was being
sacrifice.
facetious about that. Um, I'm going to take it a little bit of a different direction
Oh no.
because my thinking has been changing over the last several months to a year. And before, I would have said, you just need to be honest with yourself. And if you see yourself having certain types of behaviors, like I did with those perfect keto peanut butter chocolate chip bars, then you be honest with yourself. You say, maybe I shouldn't have these in the house. And you rewire your brain. That's another one that we've talked about, where it's like I talked about before, whenever I'd walk down the stairs to the basement, I would think about those bars because they were in the downstairs, basement pantry. And so there was some kind of a brain wiring thing where just walking down the stairs made me think of those bars. And so I had to like adjust that. So that's a whole aspect of it. But the thing that my thinking is changing on is how much the way that we respond to food is based on the way that we are currently nourishing ourselves. And not just nourishing ourselves with food, but also um, all kinds of
Information
lifestyle
input.
aspects. Because if you haven't been sleeping well, you can be craving more sugar. I mean, there have been studies to show that when you don't sleep well, you tend to have different blood sugar and have more cravings. But then also, and this is a little bit counterintuitive and a little bit, cancelly, since I have added more carbs to my diet, I don't find myself having as many cravings. And I didn't really realize that I was still having as many cravings as I was when I was much lower carb, like 30 grams and below. I would have said, no, I don't have cravings. But now that I've added more carbs, and by more carbs, I mean honestly, it's anywhere from 100 to 200 these days. Um, I don't have the same kind of cravings. And so honestly, I think I could probably have those perfect keto bars in the house at this point. I haven't tested it out yet, but I just don't have, like, I have all kinds of treats in my house that don't call my name. And it
Mm.
was it was really getting to the place of having some carbs in my diet consistently and letting my body adjust to it. Obviously, when you've just been, you know, really, really keto, the very next day, the switch doesn't just flip by adding a whole bunch of carbs. Like there's a progression and transition. But now that I have made that transition, I like the food noise is a lot lower than it
Diminished.
was. And like I said, I wouldn't have when I was keto, I wouldn't have said I really had that much food noise. But now looking back, I'm like, now I really don't have that much food noise. And I didn't really realize how much I did have. So it's easy to just focus on the food. Like, how do you choose which foods are good and bad? Well, you have this criteria and you decide if this food is good and bad. Okay, that's fine. But taking into account the state that your body is in also has an impact. So just because something is bad for you at one point in time because of the way that your body is being nourished or the issues that you're dealing with, doesn't mean that maybe 5 years down the road, that thing is still going to be bad for you in the same way.
Hmm.
So there's just a lot of different ways to
Variables.
think about it and variables. Yeah. Yeah.
I think one thing we can always say will be bad for all of the population of humanity is going to be seed oils. And
Hmm.
beyond that, just sort of assessing things based on, your own situation and experience
Yeah.
is probably the only true way to decide if something is good for you. Like if you break out in hives, that it might not be the right time for you to have that particular thing, but the fact that you are having fewer cravings and less of that activity going on after increasing your carb count, so, anywhere from 5 to 10x what a standard keto friendly
Yeah.
macro breakdown would look like. That is fascinating.
Yeah, and
Um,
not what you would hear from the most popular keto gurus. Like,
Definitely not. Definitely
and
not.
that's not to say that it's not true, or
For that.
that it's not true for anybody. Obviously, everyone's different, and
Yes.
depending on where you're at, you're going to have different experience. But my own
Hmm.
personal experience has been, it seemed like there was something my body needed from the carbohydrates, the good, healthy, whole food carbohydrates. And once that was satisfied, I didn't have the nagging, or I don't have the nagging, insatiable, craving.
Desire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I do truly believe that there was something that my body needed to get to better health.
Hmm.
And the thing that people who are really diehard carnivore, I get these comments often. I see them often on other videos where they will say carbohydrates are not essential. And that is like an argument to say, therefore, it's bad to ever eat them. It doesn't logically follow. That's just obvious. But
Right.
it's like, yes, I agree. You can survive without carbohydrates. Okay, we agree. Now let's move on to what makes us feel our best. And for me, just surviving without carbohydrates got me to a certain level of health.
Hmm.
And surviving with a few carbohydrates, whole food, healthy carbohydrates, got me to a higher place of health. That's for me, personally, for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So it's like, just because it's not essential, there's a lot of things in
Yeah.
life that we can live without, but having them in our life makes our life better.
Living without a smartphone is possible. Like, you don't, it's not essential for daily life for you to have a smartphone or
Yes.
access to the internet. I'm sorry if you can hear the audio happening in the background.
Okay.
Jared is he's out there decorating the lawn with his weed eater. That's what he's doing.
You said earlier he's going out to weed eat, and I didn't even think about like the sound of it. Like,
I don't know if you can
perfect
hear it
timing.
or not.
I can't hear
Okay, well, phew. So yeah, that
it.
for you specifically, adding in carbs was a win. And you also didn't do that in a willy-nilly, free-for-all kind of way. It was a very intentional process.
Yes.
And I think that that is something that is a more valuable takeaway from your experience as someone observing your experience, that intentionality is paramount. You can't just willy-nilly say, well, I'm going to up my carbs to 100 grams per day because Neely said she felt better and I want to see if that works for me. Okay, cool. Very cool. If you say, because this happened for one individual, I'm going to test it for myself. But then all of a sudden you go from eating, 12 carbs in a day from whole food sources that have like 10 grams of fiber to, sort of help blunt the actual process of, it affecting you. And then all of a sudden you're like 100 grams of white rice down the gullet, like,
Mhm.
or 100 carbs
Right.
from white rice down
Right.
the gullet. Like,
In one
there's
sitting.
there's going to be some incongruencies here, and
Feel bad.
then it's a different experience and a different experiment to do it that way, whereas you and Jonathan Shane slow rolled that up to a place where you are tolerating this well.
Yes. And that was even after I went through like 6 months of gut healing, where
Yeah, and that's a
I wasn't
huge factor.
huge. It's so huge. So just to be like, I was on keto and I felt this, and now I'm on 100 carbs a day and I feel this. Like, there's so much in the middle there that
Mhm.
because when you're a YouTuber, you want to make some video, like a concise, like, journey video, like, I was this, now I'm this, and this is what I did.
Right.
I don't feel
Yes.
like I can even do that. I can't be like, I was keto and I added 100 carbs a day and now I feel this, because there's so much more information there that it just doesn't even communicate what I want to. It's almost like calories in versus calories out. It's like, yeah, In one sense, that is true. But there is so much more involved in between that, that it's almost so much that that's not even true.
Well, and it's almost irresponsible to just boil it down to a single quippy statement that you can say as a tagline to something, and then just like, okay, this is what it is. 100 grams of carbs a day will make you feel better. Full stop.
Yeah,
No,
right.
that
That's
doesn't
different
work.
for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Miriam is here.
Hi,
Hi,
Miriam.
Miriam. And then I noticed that exchange student, she's here.
Yeah.
And she said happy birthday to Janice McGovern.
Oh, happy
I
birthday.
missed that. So happy birthday from us too. And then there was a couple of other comments about like not having snacks and things like that or specific treats accessible.
Mhm.
Hayden says, I'm a really bad snacker. If it's close to hand, I'm likely to keep going to it while being on the computer.
Yep.
And I think that is so challenging because it's just like an automatic response, an almost involuntary response that we don't necessarily consider. Like, and that's true of so many different things. If a bag of pepperonis are open while I'm making something for the girls, it's like, oh, well, I could just nibble 3 or 4
Mhm.
pepperonis. It's not a big deal. I mean, and it's not a big deal. But then again, it's like if it doesn't line up with my goals or objectives, then it kind of is just like one extra domino that didn't have to fall over. Like if I would
Yes.
have moved that domino out of the whole lineup, then maybe the whole thing would have fallen flat and then the rest of the image would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah. I find that the days that I'm home, I eat more just
Sure.
because it's all right there at our fingertips.
Accessible.
I'm always in the kitchen, making something for somebody else or putting something together, and it's just accessible. And I find the days where I'm out running around, I just end up eating less. And it's not that I'm less hungry necessarily, like true, real hunger. It's just that
Right.
I don't stop. It's so much more inconvenient to get food while I'm out that I just do it only when absolutely necessary. Whereas at home, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, yeah, I'm feeling like a little something. I'll just go
Oh,
ahead and go."
sure. We
Easy.
call that a flyby.
Yes. Yes, and it's just so easy to do just because
I'm
of the
just
environment.
gonna, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So we've
Yeah,
got Ellie.
those, like, brain, neural pathways like we talked about. When it's in your
Yeah.
own house, and, I mean, that's where you are all the time, so it's easy to create those little neural pathways. Like, every time I make a snack for a kid, it's easy to just, nibble on whatever it is that I'm pulling out. Yeah.
Right, right. Those little habits. We've got Ellie here from Nourishment
Hello.
Redacted. And then I saw exchange student, she mentioned this. If you are a fan of the Siete brand, they are in the process of being sold to Pepsi.
I heard about
That
that.
is heartbreaking because my husband, he will still eat tortilla chips. I for one choose to abstain because I am not in a place where I could have like 3 chips and move on with my life.
That would
He
be so painful.
he has a much more moderation personality type than I do. So
Mm.
he's able to eat these Siete chips that
Mhm.
are fried in avocado oil and are like so clean and
Mhm.
not have any kind of like overindulgent responses. So that is disappointing because who knows what's going to happen,
Yeah,
now
that's
that
why you
they,
always have to keep checking the labels to make
yeah,
sure that, the ingredients aren't changing. Didn't, Primal Kitchen, are they got sold to a big company, right?
they
I think
did sell to
so.
somebody, and I can't quite remember who, but I do remember that. Just like
Yeah,
didn't Rayo's get bought out?
probably. They all
And
do eventually.
then
I mean, that's just the way it goes.
yeah, and then Bragg's got bought out.
Oh, I didn't.
So it's just one of those things like you have to have your head on a swivel and constantly be aware of the climate of the area or
Yeah.
like this space, I guess, and just constant vigilance, as
Yes,
Professor Moody from Harry
always
Potter might
check.
say.
Yeah, always check those nutrition facts
ABC, always be checking.
and make things from scratch.
Oh, for sure. If you have the time or the mental capacity to manage that, I'm That's right where I sit.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, and then also it's like those kinds of things like tortillas and chips and stuff like that, they're fun, but they are absolutely not necessary.
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
just
For sure.
make a piece of chicken, make a steak, roast some vegetables, it's like that is completely reasonable. You don't have to have those things. We in, the Western world, especially in America, it's like that's the norm. It's almost like, if you were to go to an Asian country and say, "You're not allowed to eat rice." It's like so ingrained, like the
Yeah.
processed foods are so ingrained in our culture that to tell people that you can't have them is like, well, then what am I supposed to eat? There's nothing left. And it's like, that
Yeah.
is so untrue. And you can absolutely make beautiful meals with real whole ingredients. And yes, if you have fun with a pasta or a chip or a tortilla, fine. That's totally fine. But it is absolutely not essential. Not essential.
That's so true.
It's
It's
funny because,
100% true.
yeah, when I have done Whole30s in the past. I haven't done one
Mhm.
in a long time, but, back when I would kinda cycle through doing Whole30s, and with Whole30, they don't allow you to make, like a paleo muffin or
Look-alike.
exactly, you can't have the fakes, you can't do a pizza, so they're just trying to get you to whole food in their, most whole form, and, like, I would start a Whole30, and when I do it, my family ends up sort of doing it too because I'm
Yeah.
cooking for them. So if I'm cooking a meal, so I'd start cooking these meals of, roasted sweet potatoes and roasted vegetables and chicken thighs and, all this stuff. And every single time I would get comments from the family like, this is the best dinner you have ever made. Why don't you make this more often? And it was like never failed. As soon as I would like make that switch over to Whole30 mindset, I would start getting the most incredible compliments on my cooking.
You're
And
like,
I'm just like, this is just,
"Thank you."
and it wasn't any like crazy elaborate egg white bread recipe. It wasn't anything like that.
It
Like
wasn't trying to be anything other than what it was.
yeah, it was
It
just
wasn't
letting those
pretending.
exactly, just letting those whole foods shine, and they actually do taste really good,
Yeah.
or they
I
can.
mean, I will say this much, like, the fact that you can have 100 to 200 grams of carbs a day and not struggle with any kind of cravings, that's amazing. Um, I love roasted sweet potatoes,
They're so good.
but I cannot do them because the moment that I taste one, all
Yeah,
of a sudden I've had, like, 3 or 4 sweet potatoes worth, and it's like, for my current state of being,
yes,
it's more of an abstinence situation rather than a let's just sort of tiptoe through moderation and see if we can see if we can
right.
tolerate. Like, sure, I can have 4 little, like, 1 inch cubes of a sweet potato that's been roasted. Let's see how that goes. And it's like, nope, that's a hard pass
Yeah.
because all of a sudden it's
Yes. Well,
Lindsay
and
off the
then
rails.
so definitely taking into account where your body currently is very
Hmm.
important. So you know that just saying, "Oh, sweet potatoes are fine, I can moderate them," is not a smart move. Um,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that your body couldn't be at a different place at some other point in time. And it's
Yep.
totally fine to say, "But I'm not interested in going down that journey," to
Yeah.
figure that out because it's messy. I totally get that. But for me, it's like when I was eating more keto, like 20 to 30 grams of carbs per day, I was at the place where one bite would make me, fall off
Send
the
you
wagon,
over the edge.
and so just because that's how I was then when I was eating a ketogenic diet doesn't mean that that's just how I am across the board for all time. Like
Sure.
it's something innate about myself. It was
Hmm.
more about the metabolic place that my body was in at that time. And so, like I said, I feel like the carbs were something that my body was craving for a specific purpose. And
Hmm.
so when I was not giving my body those things, and then I had a little bit, my body's like, you need that. Eat more, eat
Mm-hmm.
more, eat more. And so it definitely like messes with your brain because,
Yeah.
it's like, especially when you're in the place of seeing the carbs as bad or
Mm-hmm.
poison, like a lot of
Sure.
people will talk about, because that just introduces way like all the guilt and like I'm poisoning my body, but I can't, but I'm having this craving and I feel like I can't stop. Like there's so much like that is a mess. It can be a mess in your brain from all of those voices that we have. So it's definitely tricky, but definitely for me, getting away from the idea that carbs are poison and sugar is inherently bad for every human being.
Full stop.
That has really freed me. So I don't have that guilt when I eat a banana like I had this morning for breakfast. I ate poison banana for breakfast. No,
Whoa,
like
whoa, whoa, whoa,
and
whoa. Is this like, the witch from Snow White where it was a poisoned apple?
yeah, yeah.
It was
No, I mean,
definitely that.
because we all know
Was
bananas
poisoned.
are inherently poisonous. They have sugar. And sugar is worse than cocaine. So, there's
Oh, for
that.
sure. Absolutely.
Anyways, when I got rid of that, like, thing in my brain telling me whenever I had something that had sugar in it, I was poisoning myself, that just takes away a whole level of guilt and shame and bizarroness. Um,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, like, recognizing that I'm actually getting benefit from the carbohydrates. So when I eat it, not only am I not thinking that it's poisoning me, I'm actually thinking that it's doing my body good. And so I'm receiving the food in a complete, like my body is in a completely different place, and my mind even is in a
Yeah.
completely different place eating the food than it was previously when I was like, no, I must never eat that. Oh, I'm craving it so bad. And I guess I'll just have one bite. No, I can't stop myself. Like everything about my physiology and my mentality around it is different when I eat it. And I think that matters.
I will certainly agree with you there. The way that we think about things tremendously affects the way that those sort of just like function within our bodies. Like whenever you think that sleep is not good for you, you choose to not sleep very much. Whenever you think that reading is not something that you're capable of, then you choose not to read very much. When you think that you can't break some addiction with like some food substance, like I can't break off Oreos, like I can keep it under 30 carbs a day, but I have to have my 2 Oreos or my 6 M&Ms because I can't let go of that thing. Like then you're right, like what you think about that thing, that's true for you. It's
Mhm.
not reality, but your body is behaving like that is true, and
Yeah.
that's just silly business right there.
Yeah. Another common comment that I see, um, I think I've had it a couple times on my channel, but I see it on other channels that talk about the benefits of carbohydrates. I'm sure Jonathan Shane has gotten plenty of these um, comments, but it's a common, like kind of a jab where they say you're just trying to justify your addiction to carbohydrates. Like, oh, look at you just justifying your addiction. And I was
Okay.
just thinking through, like, again, obviously the logic does not work, like, that's obvious. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about when you see someone moderating alcohol, you don't call them an alcoholic.
That's true.
But there are plenty of people who abstain from alcohol completely and call themselves alcoholics. So for someone who is abstaining completely from something, carbs in this situation, going to someone else who is moderating carbs and calling them an addict, it just
it
doesn't even make sense. Now, we can have a whole other conversation about if having moderate carbs is healthy or not. That's fine. But the
But
whole
that's
like
not the
idea of
conversation. Yeah.
yeah, it's completely different. But the whole like concept of coming to someone who is moderating carbohydrates and not letting it take over their life and binging, on all the junk food and stuff because they had one bite, calling that moderator an addict when you are saying these things are so bad I can't even touch them or I will go off the rails. And somehow I'm not the addict. Like, oh, it blows my mind.
Logical fallacies and hoops that we will jump through to justify our position and to validate our position on something, whether it is lifestyle choices, food choices, exercise choices, child rearing, like whatever the case may be. Like it is mind-boggling every time to see just like how many different things people will jump through, and they will talk out of one side of their mouth and then on the other end say that exact thing. Like they'll say, this is bad. I want to do this thing. It is good, but it's the exact same thing. Like I couldn't come up with an exact example at this very instant, but it's just, like forgive me, I'm struggling to actually come up with a logical example. But people will do so much work to justify their position while condemning someone else's position.
Yes.
That, and it's like those two different things are not in, like direct opposition. Like those two things could exist simultaneously and both be true, but instead people treat one thing that they think as absolute truth. Therefore, anything that's not exactly in line with that one thing is absolute fallacy. And it's like those two things don't exactly mesh well together. That's fun. Yeah.
Well, and it's almost like the act of destroying or tearing down the other side is making your side truer.
Yeah.
It's not enough for me to just think what I'm doing is right and good. I have to tear down and make the opposite side think that they're bad and terrible. And that it doesn't just keep me at the same level. That actually raises me to even more true and right.
I am at a higher godlike status now. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because it's like higher godlike status. Is there really a higher status than godlike? Oh,
but,
goodness.
And
really.
Yeah, I had something else there, but then it left me. So maybe it'll come back around. It'll come back around.
Well, Miriam is putting up pumpkins today.
Well, that's fun. I
Fun.
am, my heart is enriched by the fact that you waited until October to do such a thing.
Well, I would like to point out that pumpkins have carbs, therefore they are poison. But that kind of works for Halloween, so it's fine. Poison pumpkins.
That's valid. That checks out right there. That does. But if that's the case, then the pumpkin sausage soup from the Keto Chow website is also poison because peppers also have carbs. And there are those poblano peppers in that. And those have carbs.
Eggs have carbs. They're a little bit poison also.
They have like 0.6 grams of poison. And then beef liver has the carbs too. I don't remember how many points of carbs it has per 100 grams, but
I'm afraid we're not going to get out of this alive, is all I'm saying.
We're not gonna make it. Okay, we were gonna possibly come back in here and check in on some comments.
Here. Oh, I was just gonna say good morning to Jen, or good afternoon to Jen. She was working out, so that's an appropriate reason.
That is an appropriate. That is absolutely. I don't know if it's gonna give me a full thumbs up. I like that. I like it a lot. I do. And then we've got Ellie saying she had 2 weeks off of carnivore due to personal reasons. She found out a lot from it. I think that type of thing is so beneficial to say, like, I'm going to do a little experiment, or I need a mental break from something for a minute. Let me try a few things out and then decide what is functioning well. So rice doesn't bother you, but you listen, rice. If I were to go back to eating regular rice with butter, the limit would not exist.
Why
the limit would not exist. I
Yeah.
don't know.
It's ridiculously good.
But then bread is a problem for you. So that is such great knowledge.
Yes,
Plantains were good. I mean, fried plantains, who can argue with it?
so good.
No vegetables, but beans. Yep, that'll happen.
They're doing
That'll
that.
happen sometime. Um, and then we were, talking about different companies being bought out, and Campbell's Soup Company bought out Rayo's this
Mm.
past spring. So,
And then exchange student said Kraft, maybe talking about who bought Primal Kitchen.
okay, okay.
That's
And I have to think about that. Like, obviously, they wouldn't want to purchase these companies because those companies were flopping. They clearly have
oh yeah.
something going for them.
Yeah.
And then it's like your hope is that for at least a few years, they hold on to the practices of the original company they purchased
Yeah.
because clearly something was working.
Yeah.
And then, like you want to be cautious, but
Yeah.
you can't think that way nowadays. It's just like, how do we maximize every last thing we can maximize? And
Right. I
you
know that, I
know
mean, the companies want to make money, and there is a whole market of people who want Siete style products or Primal
products.
Kitchen style products. And so I think in as much as the company can continue like to meet the expectations of those consumers, they will try to do that. So I'm hopeful.
Right.
Not every company that has been bought out has gone to garbage.
It's true.
But as always, we have to stay vigilant. Even with the small companies, they'll change their ingredients. Sometimes things are expensive, like and stuff changes, and so you just always have to keep your eye on it. The only thing that I do struggle with is like supporting those bigger companies. Like I would like to not
Yeah,
give my money that direction.
for sure.
I haven't, become super vigilant about it or, made it my life's mission to not ever give them a penny or anything. But
Right.
in my heart, I'm like, I don't love that.
Where we can avoid that, we choose to. Where we can't, we
Yes.
we know that there is grace.
Yes. Yeah. And we have to live reasonably. We can't be
Right.
100% about every single thing.
Yeah. This is some interesting information. Rickman was looking for healthy noodles, looked and found out that they have soybeans in them.
Yeah.
I
I'm
thought healthy noodles were made of glucoman and like the konjac root.
no the healthy noodle brand. I got them at Costco before and they did have soybean fiber in them, I believe, when I got them.
Okay. Okay.
And I remember, looking at it and being like soybean fiber. And I was I went ahead and got them because it was just the fiber. And I was like, that's not supposed to be digestible. I'm not too worried
Sure.
about it. So I went ahead and used them, but that could be a deal breaker for people for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the healthy noodle, they weren't just a konjac noodle like shirataki noodle. That was
Okay.
a pretty different texture. Almost tasted like an overcooked rice noodle. Like it was that soft.
I see. I see.
Whereas
I've
the
never
konjac
actually
noodle,
tried them.
oh, okay. Yeah, I think they're better than konjac noodles for sure. Because
Mm,
konjac noodles is almost like chewing on rubber bands. They can be pretty tough. But the healthy noodle, they dissolved in your mouth almost too much. Like they almost were like overcooked rice noodles. Need to find
okay.
something in between those two, the konjac and the healthy noodle. It'd be perfect.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I need y'all to know this. Sugar, it is a gateway drug.
It is.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I
Everybody
took
be
my gateway drug
cautious.
this morning. It was a banana.
Constant vigilance. Constant
I
vigilance.
had my banana this morning. This afternoon, I'm going to be snorting some cocaine. So that's the way it goes.
I'm so glad I wasn't taking a sip of coffee at that very moment, Neely. Thank you for that. We appreciate it.
Oh, goodness sakes.
All right. Siget says that she has listened to a lot of voices and processed a lot of thoughts. She's landed. Vegetation most created. Won't gorge, but having a sweet potato every now and then. Final answer. And I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's wrong at all. I know for me personally, like white potatoes I have no draw towards them, none whatsoever. But when it comes to those sweet potatoes,
So good.
I'm like, just salt, pepper, cinnamon, like the weirdness of all that together. It's
Mm,
so good.
so good.
It's
And
so
butter.
good.
Oh my gosh. So
Or
good.
bacon fat. I
Mm.
mean, let's just go with it. And we've got Chris Bear in the house now. Hello, sir. And then um they changed came in with some facts here. Rayo's already
Oh,
changed their formula 3 to 4 years ago. They used to be more better. He's missing an on the end of that better.
yeah.
So I went
There's a
ahead
typo
and
in there.
well, it was kind of just like an internal correction,
Yes. Yes.
homeschool mom grammar police right here. It's better. And then we must have
Well,
constant vigilance.
yes. Constant. Oh, exchange student said had rice over the weekend, had some sushi. It was okay. I don't miss rice or bread, but if I'm honest, it's the brownies and cake that call my name. Yeah. Yeah. They're so good. Ellie says sushi is my love. I'm going back to carnivore, but adding homemade sushi back in. I had sushi yesterday.
Nope. Y'all have all of it. I bless the sushi for you.
I I had a
Nope.
salmon tuna roll and it was glorious.
I'm
And I
gonna
forget
say
about it.
I
It
love
wasn't
that for
poison.
you. Not other than taste. I
Oh,
hope you enjoyed your fish.
yeah, it was so good.
Although I will say, like, I will choose salmon. I will
Mm,
choose to eat salmon. Not
mhm,
with all the other stuff,
mm,
but I'll choose to eat salmon.
yes. Okay. Yes, Sing it says self-honesty is the key. Triggers, perhaps I should back away. Yes. So either, and when you see yourself with a trigger,
Mm-hmm.
there are lots of different options of ways to deal with it, like we've talked about. You can control the environment, or you can see if there's something that you can change about yourself, and like, why am I responding this way? Is it just a neural pathway? Is it that I'm deficient in something? Like, and depending on what it is and
Yeah.
where you're at, a different
Mm-hmm.
option might make sense.
Yeah. I know for me, whenever I first started off speaking an American accent today, I loved mug cakes. Like that for me was the bridge that I needed to go from a standard American way of life to a low carb and very mindful way of eating.
Mm,
Because in the evenings, oh man, this was Jared and I, we would sit there in the evenings with cups of hot tea and then ramekins full of Nestle's semi-sweet chocolate chips.
mm.
Ramekins full. So, like those things are between like 4 and 7 ounces of volume. So like here you are eating a half cup of volume or more. And it's just like, that's a lot of chocolate chips. And no wonder my skin was always looking like trash. And no wonder I was always craving sugar because I was feeding my body sugar constantly and not really doing a whole lot with that in a positive direction. So, but we have those built in habits of like every night we sit down and we have something hot to drink and a bowl of chocolate chips. So
Mm,
it was like we needed some sort of a filler in the
mm.
midst.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay,
Going
I
cold
can whip up.
turkey is hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can, and like those mug cakes, they don't always taste amazing. And especially back in 2016, whenever I first started for me, like the kinds of mug cakes that I was coming up with, you had your 17 ingredients in front of you,
Mhm,
and the sweeteners, they were doing their best. They were trying so hard.
mhm.
The
Sweetness has
coconut,
come a long way.
they have. But and then it was like, and then I'm gonna instead of whipping up cream, I'm gonna put some Greek yogurt on top and hope that the stevia masks the tartness because at the time I was so like just like completely engrossed in sugar is life. So
Mhm,
now I'm going to like, okay, well this Greek yogurt is like beyond tart and
mhm,
awful and I didn't choose sour cream. I chose yogurt, so it shouldn't be like this, but it was like this. So you got to have those bridges, but nowadays like I don't need those bridges anymore because
mhm.
I've, kind of come through that and it's no different than like I'm not over the bridge of like being able to eat sweet potatoes again. I'm still somewhere along there. And that was kind of a weird way to analyze, like to make an analogy, but we're going to go with it
Yeah.
because we only have a few minutes left for today.
Yeah.
And we're
Um,
not going to think too deeply about my logical fallacies.
I had another example come to my mind of um, controlling environment versus changing something about yourself. And
Sure.
that is, I have this really vivid memory of probably 15 years ago, maybe, when I had been on a really strict diet. And I clearly, like looking back on it, I had starved myself, and it was one of those moments where I was like just trying to not gain a ton of weight back, um,
Yeah.
after I had starved it off of myself, which is a recipe in futility. Anyways, I remember like I'm trying to control my calories. I'm trying to do a whole bunch of cardio. We had a treadmill, so I had been on the treadmill and I was like I was hungry and I got off the treadmill. I was so hungry and I was like I'm just going to have a scoop of peanut butter. Like that was the thing. I was like that sounds so good. And I'm like so I weigh out like a little scoop of peanut butter and I eat it and it was just like my body took over and I couldn't stop eating the peanut butter. And I mean, I don't remember how much, at some point I stopped measuring it, obviously, but
Yeah.
like, I couldn't stop eating it. And at that point, I could say, well, peanut butter is my trigger food and I just can't have it in the house. I need to not go to grocery stores that sell peanut butter because I'm too weak and I'll just go and buy it,
Can't handle it.
and it's like, yeah, I could do all of that stuff and maybe not eat as much peanut butter, maybe.
Yeah.
But I could also nourish my body and not starve myself because clearly the state that I had put myself in was the contributing factor and well, and combined with how delicious peanut butter is, but was the biggest factor in me eating a half a jar of peanut butter in one, like not even sitting because I was standing at the counter in the kitchen.
People sit to eat food these days?
Well, peanut butter you don't sit to eat. If you have a jar of
No.
peanut butter and you're not sitting, you're
Listen,
standing.
I'm just like I'm walking around the house doing everything. Like I'm yelling at the girls like don't eat over the floor. I just swept that up
Mhm.
as I scarfed down something over top of the floor.
Exactly, exactly.
That's a
So
good time.
anyways, like, if you are constantly dealing with trigger foods, and that's, like, consuming you, maybe look at other things that are contributing and maybe and it's I'm not saying for sure, I'm just saying, let's be open to the idea that maybe there's something else involved. Maybe you're not nourished in the way you should be, you have some deficiencies, there could be all kinds of different things that you could explore rather than just controlling the environment constantly because you do like and I've been there. Like I'm saying this because I have been that person where it's like okay well I can't control. I remember being on a really restrictive diet and going overboard with roasted carrots because it was
Oh,
just this really severely restricted diet where I had like 5 foods I was allowed to eat, and carrots were one of them. And I just couldn't stop eating this pan of roasted carrots. And I felt like I was like, oh, I'm such a failure. And I've just binged on carrots. And it's like and so maybe I should have just cut out the carrots and stuck to 4 foods now. Like at
I
some
mean,
point you have
honestly,
to stop.
you should have just dry fasted because even water, you could have binged on that, and then there you are, just drowning your guts.
Water will kill you if you drink too much of it.
It sure
It's
will.
poison.
It's poison. So this thing it says some good companies will be bought out and then slowly pull us back into the standard American diet, adding ridiculous carbs. It's exhausting. I agree. It is exhausting and constant vigilance. It's no different from, like parenting. You have to be constantly vigilant with children. You have to be constantly vigilant with the choices that we make. And I will say like that's kind of where the whole like you can control your environment to a degree.
Yes.
And then you have to kind of like say, I cannot control everything, but we're going to be okay. We're going to find a way through it.
Yes. Absolutely.
And then, hi, progress and transformation. It's good to see you here. I have no clue what a palatable sushi rice replacement might look like, but I wish you well on your quest.
I would say try cauliflower, but I don't really have a lot of hope.
And then Rick Lynn says she grew up in a vegetarian household. That's wild. Soybean.
Yummy.
Definitely would not try that personally right now.
No, thank you.
And then apparently the healthy noodle versus gluco or the konjac noodles, rubber bands, styrofoam.
Mhm.
And, everybody's got their feelings on the way that those things taste, but one must always assume that it's not going to taste exactly like pasta.
Right. I would rather not eat rubber bands or styrofoam. So,
I sit in that camp as well. And then progress and transformation. You purchased black soybeans. They have 1 net carb per quarter cup serving. Is there some other issue with soybeans? I think that my personal opinion on soybeans is they are very estrogenic, and that can be problematic. And then it's just the soybean oils are just so awful for us. So
yeah,
I
which
don't know.
whole soybeans wouldn't have much of the fat.
No, 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 no.
Within the whole bean is probably not as big of a deal, because it hasn't been processed the same way. But I'd say, they're definitely very high fiber, which is why they have only 1 net carb per serving. So it just kind of depends on how your body handles it. So a lot of people are sensitive to soy. It's just one of
Sure.
those common allergens. So it really is going to depend on how you do with it. I haven't tried out soybeans specifically,
Hmm.
because I
Same.
know a lot of low carb people do because they are so low carb and high fiber. But I haven't, and I think it's just one of those where you have to kind of play with it for yourself. And then at the same time, I probably wouldn't make it a major part of your diet, just
Yeah.
because. But then there are lots of things that I eat that I wouldn't make a major part of my diet. So some is probably fine as long as your body handles it.
Listen, I will say this much though. The one thing I will absolutely make a large part of my diet is beef. Beef and eggs, and then
There you
eggs,
go.
and then also beef, but also coffee. So,
Mm,
I've got a pretty well-rounded diet that I like
It's
to eat.
very diverse. Just need a
Um,
few sweet potatoes in there.
I wish.
Oh, too crazy vegan is here.
Yeah,
Better
I see that. It's better rest.
better
That's what it
rest.
is. That is grammatically accurate. I
Yes.
appreciate you correcting my correction. We appreciate it so hard. Hayden says, I treat my sweet potato like when giving a pill to my dog. I cover it in cheese and then I won't notice it and the carbs. Oh, you don't like sweet potatoes, do you?
Yeah. Well, then give them to us. We'll eat them for you.
Oh, man. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to not eat them because I'm not going to dive down that rabbit hole. And you are so welcome, Ellie. I am happy to bless.
Oh, goodness.
And then, of course, we've got 2 crazy ketos here. That is so much fun. And I'm assuming it's actually Joe because he says that he's like that with cheese. And that's the thing of it. Like certain things, they're just that thing for us, right?
Yes.
And Rachel with all the nut butters. I'm sure she would make a joke about that if she was the one on the.
Oh, I posted a recipe video for the My Chow box yesterday.
Yeah,
We did rum balls.
the rum balls.
How can I can't say balls without thinking of Rachel.
Balls.
I just can't.
She'll be in our heart always
Yeah.
and forever.
It's like, of all the things.
I decided to go rogue on that one just because the way that my brain was operating that day, I was really going to go in for that the donuts. I was
Oh,
thinking like, man, those sound so good, but then I realized I am not thinking clearly because I am starving. So
mm,
we're just turning left and we're going to go a totally different direction with
very
this
quick.
because I want to eat this right now. Not now,
Oh,
no, now.
yeah. Mm. That's really knowing yourself.
Yeah, oh, for
Yeah.
sure.
Knowing what your body needs.
That's right. That's right. That's not giving into like the hunger monster at all.
Well, it was with keto chow. Like, that's the right
That's true.
choice.
It was the right
You
choice. It
made the
was
right
so
choice.
good.
Pat on your
I love
back.
steamers. Look at me winning at life.
Yeah.
So just a couple more comments here. So for Rick Wynn, it's
Mm,
personal reaction for her with soybeans. A lot of bloat. Otherwise, it just depends on how it affects you. And I
yep.
think that that is ultimately the reality here. Like, I love the flavor of sweet potatoes. I love the taste of them roasted. I love everything about them. But also, I am not in a place where if I don't eat the sweet potato, I'm going to die.
Mhm.
Like so I can cook them for the kids and they can eat them up with no problem and I can be perfectly fine smelling them, roasting them, putting them on the plates, no problem. It's the moment that I eat them that's the problem. So I
Mhm.
feel comfortable just saying I'm going to abstain. It's not taking over my life. And I'm also not currently in a mental state of being where I want to work towards that goal. Like,
Right.
that's kind of a back burner thing. Like, maybe down the line, maybe in the distant future, or maybe if I'm in a place where I don't have like unlimited supply of something where like the supply itself is the limiting factor, then maybe I would consider it. But
Mhm.
also like it's just not a priority for me at this stage of life. If it
Yeah.
became that, that would be a different thing and I
Yep.
would throw everything I had at it.
Yeah,
But
like you do.
like you do. I mean, deciding where your priorities are also tremendously matters.
I agree, 100%. Joe says, after watching a bunch of videos on ducks, oh dear, Rachel has finally
They're so
decided
dirty.
absolutely no ducks on the farm. Yeah, we have a pond and we've toyed with the idea of trying to get like a little duck house out there. Because ducklings are so cute. Oh
They're
my
so
goodness.
dirty.
I know. I
They're
know. But
so
they lay a
dirty.
lot of eggs. I didn't realize. I was thinking that they laid less eggs than chickens, but
Since
apparently
they're
there's
bigger.
certain varieties that lay more eggs than chickens and they're bigger and they lay them all year long. Anyways, we did a test with Levi to see if he could handle duck egg
If he
or
could
yeah,
lay
duck eggs.
eggs,
Yeah, see if he could lay eggs. Um,
he's a big man. He could do it.
right. Because he's allergic to chicken eggs, and we're like, if he can have duck eggs, we will definitely get ducks. But then he couldn't do it duck eggs either, and so we had to. Well, it just didn't become a priority at that point. But I still would
Yeah.
like to sometime. But
I
yeah,
want to
are
I
dirty.
want to see what the so you know like they say whenever you like you have a chicken die or you what have you and you cut them open and you can see all the different
Oh,
developmental
so
stages
weird.
of the eggs. That's bizarro, but
Yeah.
also like I'm fascinated by that concept. Like I just one of my friends, she's got chickens and we go help whenever they travel. And she's like, "Yeah, the next time we have a chicken die on us, you'll be the first people we call."
Useful lesson. Yeah,
It's
it
like,
is so crazy.
I
And
want to see that on a
there
duck.
are there are people like cultures that eat the chicken ovaries, they call it, and it's like a string of yolks of different sizes, and they'll fry them up and eat them.
That's so cool.
Speaking of really cool things, though, we are and we are way over time already, but this will be really quick.
Yeah, we are. Okay.
We are hatching chickies. We have an incubator. We did a whole batch. We did our very first batch of 7, and
Yeah.
they
What a
all
perfect
hatched. They're
number.
all they're all doing really well, and they're so cute. And like we are their parents because we did it. We hatched them. And then so we have another batch going in the incubator right now. And like you can candle the eggs and see them moving inside there.
So
It's
it's like
the most crazy thing ever.
it's like a what is it? Sonogram. What's the other word for sonogram?
Uh uh
Yep.
oh, now my brain's not working. Ultrasound.
Ultrasound. It's like you're ultrasounding the chickies. You're like, oh, look at you in
Exactly.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're measuring just right.
yeah. It is. It's but it's so crazy. So like right now, you put them on there and you can see like them moving and their heart beating. It's so weird. But like the kids
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, they're gonna have their hands full over there at the Double K Ranch down
yeah,
there in Florida with
that's gonna be so
30
good.
baby chicks.
It's gonna
Oh
be
my
so
stars.
fun. So fun.
Oh,
Yeah. All
such a
right. Well,
blast.
we should probably get off of here.
Oh, hold
Oh,
on. Oh, hold on.
all right, all right.
Ricklin's grandmother used to chop off chicken heads when she was making fried chickens. fascinated by the eggs inside the chicken. Yes, I want to see it. I want to be disgusted by it, but also fascinated by it and also in awe of it. Like, I want to have all the feelings about it.
As long as you don't have to eat it, I'm fine. Speaking of that, Hayden asks if we've ever had balut. No, I don't plan to.
Is that the proper pronunciation of that? Like, I've actually never heard of that. What is that?
It's a halfway developed egg.
Oh, nope. 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 Thank you. No.
Nope.
If that is something that others appreciate as a delicacy, I will sit that one out.
Seriously. Seriously. Oh, Sing It is asking, is this a video that that she missed? No, I haven't put it on a YouTube video yet, but I did share stories on Instagram. So I do share different things on Instagram than I share on YouTube sometimes. And I just got some stories of the last batch of chickies hatching. Hopefully I'll get some into like a vlog, like when this next batch, we have 19 in the incubator right now. And 2 may not be developing. You have to candle them every once in a while to kind of make sure that they're
verify.
Supposed to. 2 of them may not, so we might be down to 17. But yeah.
But even if you get a dozen out of that,
the only bummer thing is that it's about 50-50 boys and girls.
How do you know that?
Well, that's just biology.
Oh, I thought you meant like there was a way to know that. I'm thinking like, I got nothing. I'm just assuming like they come out the way they come out. It's a surprise.
When you go to Wilco to buy chicks, most of them are girls. Some, occasionally you'll get a rooster that they miss. Yeah. But they do sex them, and they're supposed to only give you, female.
Layers. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So when you hatch your own, it's more like 50-50. So we might have several roosters that will be having to be dispatched at some point sooner.
Oh, listen. Just make sure they
won't have your ovaries in there to look at.
Oh, that's a bummer. But also, you just got to keep them real calm and comfortable so they're nice and tender when it's time to dispatch.
There you go. We'll give them massages every day.
That's right. Oh my goodness. Just like off the movie Migration with the ducks.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I've seen it. Is it?
Such a good movie. The chickens or the ducks. They were ducks.
Oh yeah.
Getting to live in a paradise type place. It was so fantastic. Okay. We have gone almost 15 minutes over our standard time. So we appreciate y'all being here so very much. Check out Nili's Instagram to keep on top of things happening at Squatter Nush Farms. Mm-hmm. And then you can check out my Instagram too. But literally all I'm doing is just sharing other reels and laughing my face off. Because that's the long and the short of what that's all I mean, like keeping up with my YouTube stuff, sharing it on a consistent basis is actually the struggle for me. So why not complicate things further? But anyway, we're going to be back next week. Same time. Oh no, there's more comment coming in.
They went to an animal auction and didn't register a number, which is very smart.
Did they have cows? Because personally, if I could get a dairy cow, I would be so happy. I would be churning butter left, right, center. All the heavy cream would be getting split off. All of the homemade fresh yogurts, all of it. Cheese making.
We want to do dairy goats at some point, but we just got to get there.
Anyway, let us know anything that you've got to share with us in the comments section down below if you're watching the replay on how you decide if food is good for you personally.